Recently, a brand new game called Sacred Line was released for the Sega Genesis. Now, that may sound kind of crazy. A brand new Sega Genesis game in 2015? Well, it's not actually as crazy as it sounds. You see, in the retro gaming community, it's become very popular to release fan-made games on actual cartridges for the NES, Genesis, or any other cartridge-based system, or even disc-based system. These kind of fan-made games become popular items at conventions, on fan sites, and there are even companies like the company Watermelon, which is their whole company thing is making games for old systems.
Watermelon made the most popular example of one of these homebrew titles, as they are called, in Pier Solar for the Sega Genesis, though it now has an HD version on most major consoles, as well as a version coming to the Dreamcast soon. They actually just released their third printing of the Sega Genesis version, though, and it's quite a cool feat to see, with an impressively long quest, excellent sprite work, and an awesome CD soundtrack that you can use with the game if you own a Sega CD, and you can even get special content by having the game plugged in through a 32X. It's a solid RPG, but it's not the game we are here to talk about. See, Watermelon is starting to now publish other games not developed by them, and while they have another game on the back burner, the unreleased It Came from the Desert, quietly released with the new Pier Solar printing is the game Sacred Line, from developer Sasha Darko. So I figured, while I have this, why not give it a bit of a shake? So let's take a quick look at this brand new game from the last processor. Sacred Line is a downgraded port of the PC version that Sasha Darko had made previously. However, instead of a free-roaming adventure game, this game was turned into a visual novel-style game, with many choices the player can make along the way. The story involves Ellen, who runs a private detective agency that she inherited from her sister Sarah. Most believe her to be dead, but Ellen believes she is still alive somewhere. When she gets a strange call about exploring a forest outpost, she goes in to investigate. Sacred Line's story is a sci-fi horror hybrid, and since it's a visual novel, the story and writing are key, and Sacred Line is enjoyable, but not without fault. The game can be a bit hard to follow, as certain things are left kind of ambiguous and up in the air throughout most of the game, and it kind of relies on you following all the different paths, exploring all the rooms, and getting the different endings to kind of piece everything together. In this sense, it can be a bit annoying, but when you do beat the game, it gives you an encyclopedia that kind of lets you explore all the different settings and characters and descriptions, which can help you build a better grasp on the game after the fact. It is a game that does encourage replaying, so of course it kind of does need you to play the game a few times to really grasp the entire story. Also, the writing can be a bit wonky at times, feeling a little bit like it's trying to be kind of edgy or trying too hard when it doesn't have to. The game is supposed to be a mature title with a lot of dark themes, but that doesn't mean you have to swear a lot or kind of go a little bit too far with your descriptions. What the game does well, though, is the sense of dread the game establishes through its atmosphere and tone. The graphics are a bit washed out from being pre-rendered pictures and having to compress them to fit onto a Genesis card, and this makes the images darker and a lot more creepy as a result. The soundtrack is equally as eerie, and while it may loop a little too much for my taste, and some of the looping may not flow very naturally, the sound quality is very high, being that it's outputted through a wave format, which is a nice trick that pays off. The music really does get under your skin after a while, which is a nice feeling for when you're kind of in a scary situation. The gameplay boils down to almost all just choosing different paths to take. At certain points, you have to decide how to progress, and this may lead to continuing the story, finding out background information, or dying. The checkpoints are frequent enough that you shouldn't get too frustrated at any point, as the amount of branching paths isn't immense enough to have a lot of trial and error, but enough to still give you a freedom of choice. Also, there are some enemy encounters throughout the game, though how you handle these encounters is quite interesting. Instead of having a battle system in-game, or even having just another branching choice system, you roll a die. Yeah, I was a bit thrown off at first, but it's kind of a cool little gimmick, but what kind of sucks is that, really, it makes it 100% chance. Also, you can cheat and lie, though that isn't a very cool thing to do. Still, even with checkpoints, since rolling a 6 seems to be the only way to beat an enemy, and a 1 or 2 tends to kill you, it can be a bit cumbersome and annoying to play it the fair way, as you'll tend to end up backtracking quite a bit over and over again for bad dice rolls. Now let's talk about the game. The LE version that I have here is sold out now, but you can still get this cartridge-based copy on their store. This comes with a lot of nice features actually, besides just the game. Firstly, of course, you have your cartridge of Sacred Line that'll work on any Sega Genesis. Then, you have a nice little fold-out color manual that's pretty nice to look at, and generally speaking, of high quality as well. Next, of course, you have this weird little stand you can put the card on to kind of display it out in your collection, which for games like this that tend to be for collectors, it's kind of nice. Then you have this nice fat folded up insert that lets you put it into any Sega Genesis box if you want to put this into a box. And then you have a little nice set of stickers for no other reason besides just, hey, stickers. And finally, you actually have a cutout die that you can make so that if you don't have a die by any reason, you can cut one out and make your own so you can play the battle sequences. Overall, Sacred Line is a great collector's piece to any Sega Genesis collector, and it's also enjoyable once or twice, but you likely won't get a lot of mileage out of the game, as it really only takes a few hours to see everything the game has to offer, and it really doesn't have much reason to be played again once you know the whole story. Still, the story has moments of genuine horror and creepiness that may leave a lasting impression. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you haven't seen my new hit reset for Sega Bits, where I tell you why I don't think Sonic 3D Blast totally doesn't suck, you should probably click that video on the left and see why I think those things, and check it out. And if you just want to see some more of these other videos that I make, you can click that video on the right and go to my YouTube channel and check out a bunch of those too. This one's about cyberbots and why that game was really cool and I wish it came out in America and stuff like that. Or why I just like it. Just watch it. It's about cyberbots. It's a great fighting game.